I'm Ilana Bayer. I'm Director of the Learning Technologies Lab, and my colleague Lisa Colizza is joining us for this session. Please, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Hi, everybody. I'm Lisa Colizza from the Postgraduate Medical Education Office. I'm the Educational Lead Developer there and the Co-Lead for CBME implementation.
Excellent. And we're going to have lots of opportunities for communicating and connecting with one another through some activities and through sharing during our session. But I first wanted to start off our session with just speaking a little bit about Microsoft Teams and what it is. And so we think of Microsoft Teams as being a space. It's a virtual space where we can communicate and collaborate with other individuals, whether they are part of our organization or whether they are guests to our organization. And so we can think of it also as a central hub, a place where we can share resources and files. And we're going to be taking a look at some case examples of how we can do this. One of the features I really love about Teams is that it is a great place where we can stay up to date. Because we can share our files and resources, we are sharing the most recent versions of our files with each other. We are also eliminating files getting lost in our emails. And so it's a great way to stay up to date on the latest information from your team. Microsoft Teams integrates with Office 365. So you have that integration, that functionality of using the suite of Microsoft Office products, as well as a number of different applications that can be tied into your Teams. And we're going to take a closer look at that as we go through some of the case scenarios and features and functions. Right now, I am doing what's called a screen share with you from a file that's actually uploaded into our Teams. And this is another feature that is really nice when we are working in our Teams, is that we can very easily share files that reside on our desktop or other sites with other team members. And so I'm going to go out of the file share right now, okay, and bring us back into our meeting space. And I'm going to turn it over to Lisa to take you through one of our case scenarios that really highlights a lot of the features and functionalities of Teams. Oh, sorry, in just a moment, before I do, and you may have already figured this out on your end, I just wanted to point out one of the features, or some of the features around that floating navigation bar at the bottom of your screen. So towards the bottom portion of your screen, if it's not already present, you can hover over the screen and it will appear, is a bar that has a video camera icon, a microphone, a little square with an arrow, which is the share button, as well as a little button that has 3 dots. And if you hover over that, it has more options. And so to turn your attention to that one, there are different things you can do with this. One of them that I'd like to draw your attention to is that you can change your background effects. And in a newer version of Teams, and some of you may have it, there's an option for live captioning. And so this is a really good consideration from an accessibility standpoint, in that you can turn on live captions for yourself individually, or you can turn them on as the host within your meeting. There is also, beside the 3-dot button, a raise hand button. And so if you have a question, you can raise your hand, and then that will let the individuals who are organizing the event know that you have a question. And beside that is a little text message button, which if you hover over says show conversation. And so if you click show conversation, it will open up a chat window. And so what I'd like to do is encourage you, if you have questions as we're moving through the session today, please put your questions or comments into the chat window, and we will be monitoring those as we go through. The last button beside that shows a couple little people, and this is your show participant window. And in the participant window, that is where you will see the list of everybody who is attending the session. And we will see if your hand has been raised as well. And you can show that as well by clicking on that feature. And just to let you know, just because it was at the beginning of our setup, I started our meeting in our general channel by doing a meet now. With that, though, you can also invite people into the meeting at any time. So if there was someone we decided did not get, or we found out there was someone who didn't get the initial invitation, we could invite them mid-call to join the meeting. So there's always that option of people into the meeting, even if they weren't there at the very start of it. And now I will turn it over to Lisa.
Okay, I'm just going to share my screen and take you into Teams, my side. So what we thought of doing today is really take you through a tour of the different functionalities of Teams, and I'm going to show you how I'm using it in one instance because it's a well-populated team. It's been up for a while, and it shows some of the features that are kind of some of the favorites. And it also will allow us to consider how you might use Teams in your own capacity. So you might want to use it as an educational leader with your own faculty. You might want to use it as a faculty member with your students, with colleagues. And there's lots of features that allow you to customize your team. And so I'm just going to take you through the one I use for my CBME project. And I'm excited about Teams because prior to this kind of collaboration tool, there were things like Microsoft Project, which is a really robust project management piece of software. There were things like Basecamp 3, which was very simple, allowed for some collaboration, and Slack and some of those others that you've heard about. Why I'm a fan of Teams is because it's fully integrated into Office 365. So it integrates with your Office calendar, your Office features as Word, PowerPoint, and all of that. So it really simplifies things and makes it really efficient. I will mention that there is an upcoming enhancement. If you look along the bottom where my cursor is, there's going to be some added functionality coming in July. They're updating everyone's email, and with that, Office 365. And what will appear here in future in Teams is a calendar function. It will allow you to actually schedule meetings directly into your Outlook calendar. And so in Outlook, you'll see make it a Teams meeting when you're selecting new meeting. So there's some new functionality come that'll make it even better. So there's lots of functionality here, and I don't want to really overwhelm everybody. I just want to take you through a tour and show you how I kind of customized it for this purpose. So Teams is set up as a whole group. So think of who you might want to pull into a team, a group that you're working with. And within that group, you're going to have on the left here these channels that show up. So the general channel is going to be for everybody in the entire team. And then everybody that's in that team will see or not see, depending on what you do as owner, these channels. So I've developed a channel for each committee that serves the CBME implementation in the CBME office. And then I have an internal one that is a private channel that I use with my admin and with other people that we have some background work going on. And so there's the possibility of creating a private channel, and we're going to show you that today. So this is generally the structure of how you might compose your team. It might be assessments, evaluation, student groups, tutorial groups, however you are setting up your own structures. Across the top here, you're going to see the main navigation. And this, again, is in the general channel, so everybody sees this. Posts is hard-coded. So posts is really your chat function. You can upload updates. Everybody in the team will see them. And it's an ongoing flowing chat, and you can scroll up to see previous chats, or it's dated, and anything new will populate at the bottom. You can add attachments to it like I did here for an announcement. You can upload photos, you can upload documents, and there's lots of features here along the bottom. Anytime you see the 3 dots, there's always something good hiding behind it. Like we just saw before, Ilana showed us the ability to modify your background and to open a conversation panel on the right, those kinds of things. So files here is also hard-coded in Teams. So you're going to see your typical file architecture, folders and files within, just like you would, and you would upload them from your own local computer. You could create a new one. There's syncing options. And then say I open a file and I want to share it with somebody, it's going to give me a link to either that folder or it's going to give me a link to the actual file. and you can copy that link and then send it in an email or a communication, post it up. But anytime anything's altered, people have full control over what notifications that they want to get. This is important because when somebody belongs to a team, they don't necessarily want to get every notification of every channel. So you can control that in here under notifications, and you can control what you see. So, well, notify me when there's a new post. Do I want that on or not? I'm in often enough that I ended up turning that off. Channel notifications, because I'm the owner or one of the owners of this group, that I do want to know when there's channel mentions and there's activity in the channels. And so I can turn that on. So along here, continuing along, this is now fully customized navigation pane at the top. I chose by adding apps. If you go to the plus sign at the end of the navigation pane, it allows you to select from a number of different applications, many of which you're going to be familiar with. When you select that, it's going to add it to the top navigation pane and customize the functionality of your own team. So one of the things that's important right now that we use a lot, and what's happening is our performance system for capturing student data. They have a whole training site. So I can add an entire website to my navigation pane. And I've done that. I've added also the CBME website that we have. These are two featured websites that are foundational to the team and to implementing CBME. Here I've added a wiki. So a wiki allows you to just date stamp and add a comment, and it scrolls up every time you add to it. I've made this one a question and answer. So if there's a question that's come into me on trainee progression, I list the question and I post the answer. It's just a running stream that people can go to. And again, I can send that out to people. It's also a good documentation. So if you needed to go back and look it up. Activities is really cool. If anybody is all of us are responsible for planning activities and who's going to do what and what time does it need to get done by in terms of due dates and what are the specific tasks of it and what files do we need to get these things done. So activities is really the addition of the planner app, which I selected, and I renamed this activities. It just made more sense than calling it planner. So activities of all the things that are happening in implementation of CBME. So developing program transition plans were big. I was able to add a task. I can enter the task name with July cohort that are launching now. I can add that task. Then when I open that task, I can further customize it. So I can assign somebody, I can assign myself, I can assign others, I can say when it started, I can say, okay, it's in progress, which it is. Due date would be, well, they launch by July 1, so I'll make that the due date. Priority's high, it's very important. And start date at this point, not relevant, it's been ongoing. And I can add notes here if I wanted to. This is great in that I can add a checklist. So update transition plans, follow up re-MedSys training they did, follow up with the program administrator. And this becomes a checklist under this bucket. I can show that on the card, or I can add this as a checklist and show it up here under the task. And what's great about that is when I go back to the task, I can check these off. So this is my dashboard for all of the activities under my purview. And so I can check these off as I do that. It's going to close out eventually. And when your task is complete, it populates along the bottom. And you can see I've completed 4 tasks on that recently. So you go along and you create these buckets and it moves horizontally, and you can just add a bucket and then start loading your tasks. What's really useful about this is that the dashboard is there for knocking off your tasks and getting your to-dos done. But you have another view called charts. So this is at a quick glance can give you the status of things. Okay, how many things I haven't started that should have started? How many things are in progress? Where am I late? I always kind of look at the red zone and say, where are my priorities when I check in on this? I can look by buckets. Where are the things that really need the most attention? And then down below, the priorities. And so it's giving me under important, I've got some red zones there. So I'm going to take a look at that. Then for the assignments, I can look at who's been assigned and where we kind of below. So if you have a student group in here in a bucket, and say it's tutors, and tutors have been assigned a bucket and they have their to-dos, they're going to show up as tutors, and then you can see everybody in your team populates along here. These people haven't been assigned anything, so that's why they're empty. But if you have tutors that have to set up things and get things going, they're gonna show along here, and it keeps you kind of in the know at a glance of where things are at. I can look by tasks over here, and I can change my filter view, and I can look at, okay, what's due this week? I just need to know where I'm at this week, and things will come up. I can filter by priority. I need to look at what's urgent, which I do often, and I have it populate there. So that's a really useful feature. The other really useful feature is keeping you on your timelines. So if you have activities populated as buckets and you've created due dates, they're going to populate into your schedule. And you can open anything that comes up here. And because this is this can be added to any channel, you can create your schedule with different groups of people. So say the tutors have their own schedule of when their hours are, or any other sort of deliverables. They have their own calendar and they can work within that channel. So I'm going to move down and just take you over here into a channel because it allows you to see kind of how they've taken up with things. One of the added benefits here is you can assign. So in my case, I've given the chair full ownership. I've made them an owner in the team, so they kind of run their own channel as the chair of that committee, and they we work together. They have their committee meetings and they have their files. They have their planning notes, so they've used a wiki, and we're keeping planning notes on meetings. Everybody's all in the same space, and the real advantage is you don't have to upload documents and download documents, review them, use track changes, and then upload it again. Anything in file, because you are in Teams, which is cloud-based, it's part of Office 365, it's going to automatically update. So you can collaborate on an actual file. Let's open something. We're going to do this together when we have a little bit of playtime in a bit. But say there's a file open, a Word doc opens, or a PowerPoint presentation, and you're collaborating on it with other people. When you're sharing your screen, you can do it live with folks and start to edit live on a call, in an impromptu meeting. Now's a good time with 2, with 5, with 10, and you can edit through a document. And the committee or the working groups of a committee might do that, and your subgroups. So your tutors might do that, others, your colleagues, other faculty, however you're grouping people. And so that's a really great feature. You can not worry about the security of the files because they're saved onto SharePoint, which makes them just as safe as any of the files in your Microsoft Office are now. So those are my channels. Those are some of the functionalities and the features I've added to customize and how I've picked different apps. This is the planner app that gives you the activities. I can upload a PDF. So in a previous team, I have a PDF that sticks up here, and it's actually the guidelines or a policy document or anything that's frequently referenced, an implementation plan, those kinds of things, completely customizable. You can also, when you're in files, you can open up a file and then you can select to have it a tab. There's so much functionality here. It's really about some playtime to get used to it, but you can pin a file to the top, so it will hover at the top here pinned, or you can make it a tab and it'll populate up here. So if you've collaborated on a Word document and you want to finalize it, publish it as a policy document or as a guideline for folks, you can then make it a tab and it sticks up here. At that point, is there any questions? I can stop and field any sort of questions. You can post them in the chat if you want. And I think Ilana is monitoring that. We can answer questions as we go. I'm just going to finish up with just looking at your vertical pane here. It's useful too. And it's another way of how Teams is kind of organized and how you can use different features. So today we're in Teams. I already showed you my teams that I'm part of, and this is ours here. I can open chat, which allows me to chat with any of my colleagues or anybody I have in my contacts. I start a chat up here, and I can make it interesting by uploading an attachment. I can, here's the attachment thing. I can add some emojis, some GIFs. It can get fun for different people. And then anything with 3 dots, you can take a look and see what else it offers you.